Gorn Podcast episode number 30. This is episode 2 with Eric Larkin, Arizona State National Champion in 2003, OW of that tournament, won the Hodge Trophy. Want to ask you this, Eric, where's the Hodge Trophy?
It's a funny story. So it was at ASU for 15 years, right? And they had it in this trophy case, and then it disappeared one day. And someone said they went in there to go look at the awards, and they're like, "Hey, your trophy's on there." I'm like, "Yeah, right, it's in there." Break. So I go over there, I don't know, 6 months later, and I look in there, and it's not in there. So then I start inquiring about it, ask the coaches, I ask Baki, one of the administrators. I'm like, "Hey, where's the Hodge?" It's like, "Oh, it's getting it's somewhere else. We're gonna move it to another location." And years go by, and I'm like, "Where is it at?" And I keep asking. I asked for a replica because I started the school, right? So I wanted to put it at the school so the kids can see it. I gave it to ASU when I won. I'm like, I'm not going to put this anywhere. I don't really have any trophies at my house or anything, but at my office at the school I do. So one day I was on these guys constantly, and one day I see it sitting in the wrestling room. It's just sitting there, and I'm looking around. I think they kind of helped me out a little bit. I picked it up, and it's here at my school now. Yeah, so it's sitting next to some of the Tulsa trophies that our kids have won. So,
what was the coolest thing about winning the Hodge?
To be honest, it was exciting. It really was. At that time, I didn't really think of it as a big deal. As I got older, I did. I know what it means now, but at that time, I was just like, "Oh, cool! I got another award." My award was winning the national title. I wanted to win one so bad. That was just gravy. And just the respect and being the most dominant wrestler of that 2003 year and beating out some of the guys that were in that mix. I very easily could have lost that. Oh no, it was the OW of the tournament. Ryan Lewis was having a phenomenal tournament. He ended up getting beat by Johnny Thompson. And I remember that was one of the only times I was like, God, maybe I can get an OW here, because I had wrestled Lawrence a couple of times, and then I watched Lewis lose right before me. I'm like, I got to go get this match. Let's go get this match. So win national titles, we'll get the OW. That was really exciting to finish that tournament, and not necessarily saying I'm happy that those guys lost, but there were some good guys that got beat in that final match. Uh, that was more exciting than winning the Hodge. But now looking back, they all mean just the same.
At that time, how was the trophy presented to you?
I got it on the baseball field at an ASU baseball game. It was a packed stadium where T handed it to me. They talked about it. That's how I was given it. I didn't get it from Hodge. But that was cool. They gave it to me, I think, at a football game too. They gave it to me at a couple of places, just to present it to me.
What stung the most coming up a little bit short your junior year in that national final?
To be honest, I had a lot of doubt right before that match. It was a weird finals. So they changed the start time of the finals to like really early. I don't necessarily remember the exact time, but it was a big time change. Like, I thought we were wrestling in the evening. We wrestled in the morning, and I had horrible weight cuts. Like, making 141 was bad. Like, I knew I was going to 149 that next year. I started out that year at 149 because we had one of the wrestlers that was out, and we didn't know if he was going to come back. They said he was going to be back at the semester. So my partner and I, Dave Douglas, he was wrestling 41, I was wrestling 49. We both moved down. We were both like 12-0 at those weights, beating really good guys, winning tournaments at the weight above. And then when he came back to fill that hole for the team, we dropped back down. It was miserable again. It felt like making 133 as a freshman. It was even worse on Dave, getting down to 33. I mean, we spent most of our time cutting weight those last couple of days before every tournament. So it was just taxing. I think not feeling good physically, I let it affect me mentally, which usually I'm pretty good at pushing through. And those weight cuts, man, they take that power, that fire out of you. And I remember feeling that before the finals. We weighed in early. We started a few hours after that. We didn't have that long break like these guys have now. Uh, and then just getting out there, I already felt tired shaking hands. I just remember feeling that. And I don't know if it was all physical as much as it was mental, because that wears on you, right? Just the stress of that, it just it wasn't a good time. So I really didn't know if I was going to win. I was in a position to secure a cradle in the match against Holker. I locked it up, and he's funky too, and he's able to wiggle out of it. And I remember like being like, ugh, like I don't know if I'm going to do this. And sure enough, I got beat.
What's your philosophy with weight cutting?
I hate it. It's necessary, but in a in a lot better way, controlled way. It's so easy now. Like our kids don't suffer. We got them all dialed in, extremely hydrated. I would never have thought about drinking gallons of water leading up to the day before of anything. Like we were dehydrated, you know what I mean? So I think it's just the way that it's done now is a lot better. Your walking around weight is your natural weight where you're walking into practice every day. Um, our kids don't really blow up. We don't have a whole lot of time off. I mean, we might have like 3, 4 weeks off for these guys. Uh, so their walk around weight stays pretty intact with their competition weight. It's not far off. So it's a lot easier. We're not sucking the life out of them, and we get the most out of every practice. I would love for there to be mat side weigh-ins. That would be awesome. Because it would make the wrestler more disciplined, the individual more disciplined, their character more disciplined, because you have to always, it just becomes a lifestyle, where you watch these guys go up and down and up and down. And that's what we did. Uh, I didn't know any better. The coaching staff didn't know any better at the time. We just did it.
I always like it, Eric, when I'm talking to some of the all-time greats and they agree with me. I put something on social media within the last 2 or 3 weeks, just kind of random, like mat side weigh-ins. Like, what do we do here? Because, I mean, and I think that what triggered me was there was a UFC fight a couple weeks ago, and a guy weighs in, and then the next day he's like 25 pounds heavier. And I've always thought, like, if both guys are doing it, like, let's just say for argument's sake, we both wrestle 149, and we both walk around at, again, I'm maybe exaggerating this, but 165. So we both cut all the way down to 149, and then the next day or whatever, a few hours later, we both wrestle weighing 165 pounds. Like, it is the most to me, it is the most pointless. It doesn't make any sense at all. So do you think we'll ever get to the point where common sense just really takes over? And I love wrestling, but some of this stuff, it's like, you feel like somebody's playing a joke on you, that we'll get some mat side weigh-ins. I think it would help the sport so much. You think we ever see it?
I do. I really do. I think we will see it. I don't know how soon, but I don't see why they're not already moving in that direction, or maybe they are. I mean, you might have some more insight than me on that, but yeah, I do see us doing. What do you think about that? Do you think we will?
I hope so, because I just think, Eric, I mean, and again, not nearly to the extreme you did or to the level you did, but I cut weight as a senior in high school. And I've always been so embarrassed to say this, Eric. I mean, this is 30 years ago, and it ticks me off even talking to you about it right now. Why was I cutting weight? Kind of looking for the easier way. I mean, and it completely backfired. It completely backfired. I hated it. I mean, I hated wrestling my senior year of high school. I was counting down the days 2 weeks into the season. I was a senior in high school, had a miserable experience. Yeah, I won a lot, but it was, it wasn't because I was a good wrestler. I mean, I didn't get better. I never got better at wrestling. I got pretty good at cutting weight. It was a miserable experience, and the older I get, the more I want to win. You got to be intense. It's never going to be easy. But at the same time, and it's not going to be fun 100% of the time, but I think you got to you got to enjoy it, right? I mean, don't you want to enjoy the journey? If
Yeah.
somebody gave me a magic wand, Eric, it might be the number one thing I would change in the sport. Mat side weigh-ins. Why not? Why
Yeah,
not?
why not? There's a few times I remember actually being like, why am I doing this? Like I hate this sport. And that was my freshman year in college when I made 33s. I was like, I don't even want to do this anymore. My junior year, doing 41s, just having the end of the season that I did, and it was back to cutting weight. And then of course the dark era of wrestling when we had the ball grab,
Mm.
the 3 periods, the push out. And it's like it wasn't even wrestling to me. I was like, every time I walked down the mat, I wasn't confident like I was every other time. Yeah, I'm wrestling some of the best guys, right? But I always felt confident walking on the mat, like I'm gonna win this match. When we wrestled those years with the ball grab and the leg clinch and all, I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't even, what am I doing? That was, those rules were not for me, I'll tell you that.
It was so bad. It was so
So
bad. I mean, it was so bad. I mean, you're one of the great wrestling minds in this country. I mean, with the PFL stuff, what you're doing at Valiant, and obviously your success as an athlete, you got kids that are studs. If I gave you that magic wand, Eric, what are a couple of things you are most passionate about within this sport? And not to pick on the sport, because there's a lot of really good things, but what are a couple of things? I give you the magic wand where you're saying, I'm going to change these two things for the betterment of the sport.
well, I mean, if we got to use the one with the mat side weigh-ins, that would be, I mean, that would be awesome. That would change a lot of things. And I think everyone's journey would be a lot better off moving forward. There wouldn't be weight cutting, right? So everyone they'd be happy when they're in practice. You're not wasting practices on weight cutting. The other one would be, man, there's so many different things. I would probably say, no, I like, I know everyone talks about the push out, moving that to folk style, but then how do you do the edge of the mat wrestling? Because I really like that, where you have to have 1 point in, and these guys are finding back points and pins. I enjoy that part of the sport, but maybe there could be something along those lines with getting them into the zone, and maybe there's a passivity there or something. I haven't really put much thought to that, but something with that out of bounds, making it. I don't know if you remember watching Real Pro Wrestling. Did you ever watch that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Years ago? Well, there was like this energy clock that went down. So when you were on the edge of the mat, right, and you're getting controlled, you're not necessarily controlling the center. There was this energy thing that went down. And when your timer went down, the other guy got choice. Either you got to lock in a clinch or get a reverse lift. Maybe something like that. Your energy timer goes down. The guy that still has the energy on their clock, they get their choice, top, bottom. They can stay neutral, whatever. Maybe something like that.
Did you do that Real Pro Wrestling? Were you in that?
Yeah.
Okay, because
I
that's 2 decades ago, but that I thought that was pretty cool. What was your favorite memory from that experience?
just kind of getting treated like a movie star. We walked the red carpet. The finalists got to walk the red carpet, and you were in a movie studio where they shot all these big movies. It was just the whole production of it. That was my first time around it, right? That was a lot of fun. Everyone had a good time. Everyone wasn't in the best shape except for Doug Schwab, who beat me in the finals. That dude just never got tired. But just the whole production of it.
Who's the toughest guy you've ever wrestled? Just pure toughness.
Well, I mean, I wrestled a lot of good guys. There's a lot of names that really stick out, but one that I really remember, I was so I was a red shirt sophomore. So that 2000 year, I was wrestling freestyle. So I did that. You can almost consider it Olympic red shirt year, right? So I wrestled that circuit. I hit all the international tournaments, went to the Olympic trials, all that stuff. I wrestled TJ Jaworski, and it felt like my dad holding my hands the first time I wrestled him, and he was tickling me with his chin. I didn't even know what was going on. I never felt anyone like that before. It was like way out. I walked on the mat like, how do you wrestle this guy? He just grabbed me and threw me down. I'll never forget that. But I remember being like, I gotta get stronger. I've got to get stronger. I know I'm gonna wrestle him again. I knew I was gonna make the Olympic team, but I wanted to beat some of these guys, right? And I got to wrestle him again at the U.S. Open at like the quarters or somewhere in there, and I got beat 5-0. So I didn't get teched or manhandled, but I never scored a point on him.
He was an absolute machine. I mean, TJ Jaworski at North Carolina, because he would have been, you know, what? I mean, a
That was
little
his
older than you, you know, six,
Yeah,
probably what?
that was last year. He was quite a bit older than me.
Yeah. I mean, that was a man. No doubt about it. He's still
Yeah.
a beast. I got to get him
Yeah.
on this podcast. He's still a beast. And the guys, you know, these guys are in their 50s now. They're
Yeah.
hammers. You know, that's a great name, TJ Jaworski. So going back to college, you're a runner-up. You lose to Holker from Iowa State your junior year. What do you remember? I mean, now you've taken fourth, you've taken third, you've taken second. You know, what do you remember from, you know, that off season mentally in dealing with the pressure, knowing you got one more chance to get it done? What did the pressure weigh on you?
No. So to be honest, it's kind of weird. I knew I had one more year left. When I lost that match, I I was like, I don't even care what happens next year. I just know I'm done cutting weight. I'm gonna I'm gonna focus on getting better at wrestling each day. I'm not gonna waste any more time on cutting weight. And I said, I'm going 149 no matter what. I don't care. I'm done. That's it. I'm done cutting weight. I remember making that hard statement and then just focusing that summer on getting better in the wrestling room, on weightlifting, on everything else that I could control. When I took that weight cutting out of it, it made a huge difference. Um, I mean, I was weighing about 158, uh, but dialed in on my nutrition, right? I was eating healthy, felt great, hydrated. I think that was when I started kind of figuring out like what I needed to do for my body to feel great. Uh, I was leaving practice at 53 every day. So before every dual meet, before every tournament, I I gave myself 1 hour before the weigh-in. So all my teammates, everyone else, they stopped eating, stopped drinking. They woke up in the morning or several hours before that dual meet, and they were already on weight. I came into every weigh-in 3 pounds over an hour before, and I was hydrated. I had my belly full. I had energy and I drilled for an hour. And I always was right on weight and I felt fantastic. I started drinking water, started eating, and I started sweating right away. I knew my body was turned on and I felt great. And I didn't learn that until my senior year.
What was your mindset heading into the match with Jared Lawrence? Because that was a fun match.
Yeah, I just knew that he was going to keep coming. He just never stopped, and I knew where he was good. Uh, so I wanted to stay out of like his 2-on-1s and his controlled ties. When I kind of kept some space on him, or like a little, or like real snappy, I felt like I controlled the match. But when he would start getting controlled ties and stuff and hanging on me, I knew I needed to stay out of those positions. Uh, so going into that match, I had an injury in the semis, and I kind of like had to hide it at weigh-ins. I ended up having to get a Toradol shot before that match. I couldn't even bend my knee again. I had a lot of knee issues. They're great now, uh, but I had a big old brace on my knee, and I had that shot an hour before the match started. I took it off. I didn't feel my leg. Was able to drill with Townsend. Uh, I was excited. Leading up until that hour when the pain went away, I didn't even think I was going to wrestle. So there was a lot of emotions going on. So I didn't really get to think about the actual match itself. I was thinking about, am I going to compete or not? So that might have kind of alleviated some of that pressure and that stress going into a finals where I had lost the year before and I've taken fourth, third, second. Uh, I just remember shaking hands and getting after it, and knowing I had to wrestle the whole 7 minutes, no matter what. And I knew I was going to be put in some uh, precarious situations, right? Or some real tough situations with him, and I was able to scramble out of them and end up on top. So
When you look at your career, I mean, four-time conference champion, four-time All-American, I mean, you were in the mix for a national title every single season you competed. Hodge Trophy, OW, the tournament in 2003. I mean, you've done so much in this sport. What are you most proud of?
As far as my career,
Yes.
oh, yeah, I guess winning that national title. Just staying after it. Uh, Working through all the injuries and all my other life stuff that was going on, uh, and just never quitting because everyone goes through that. No matter who you are, they've all thought about it. It's the toughest sport, right? It's not easy. Uh, so just getting through it, and coming out on top and getting what I wanted from the start.
When you look at your wrestling career, what was your go earn it moment?
Go. What do you mean by that?
When was such a real pivotal time where you had to find a way to get it done? Backs against the wall for whatever reason, and you had to just find a way and go earn it and go get it.
To be honest, it seemed like every NCAA tournament at the end of the year, I always had an injury. So just going and finding a way to get on that podium and always put myself in a position to win and to actually, like every year I thought I was gonna be on top. Even my freshman year, I really did. I thought I had the chance to get in there and win. But there was always these obstacles and these little things I had to navigate through to get on that podium, to get fourth, to get third, to get second, to get first. Uh, that was my moments, I think.
If you would have a conversation with yourself as an 18-year-old heading to Arizona State, what would you tell yourself if you were talking to yourself going back 20 some years? What do you tell yourself?
Enjoy the process, uh, and don't cut weight. Get your nutrition dialed in now, uh, and make sure that it's a year-round thing. Um, I took summers off my freshman sophomore year, uh, and I didn't make it a year-round sport. Like when you love the sport, you do. You just grab your buddy or your brother and hey, let's go roll around. Let's go work on this. I didn't necessarily love it at times, especially when I wasn't on top of the podium. So I would tell myself, enjoy the process, enjoy every day, and don't cut weight.
What's the most impactful wrestling conversation you've ever had? How would you answer that?
Well, I think one of the most impactful, not necessarily conversations I've ever had, but I got the opportunity, and I tell this story all the time. I was in Greece in '04, and I had made the finals of an international tournament, and Bufasa Satiev, however you say his first name, was in the finals as well. And he didn't know who I was, but he saw me kind of work through the tournament, and he locked eyes with me from across the room, and I'll never forget this. And he's like, he called me over. And I'm like, is he really calling me over? No, he's not calling me over. So I go, all right, go over, and he goes, wrestle, drill. I'm like, yes. So we end up sparring. I mean, I was live wrestling pretty much, and he was flowing through positions, but it was one of the best times I've ever had in wrestling. Like just flowing with this guy that was just really, really phenomenal in all these positions. And I'm like, my coach comes and gets me, and I'm drilling for an hour before my finals match, and I'm next. And I'm not even paying attention. I'm like, I'm getting a workout with Sativa. I'm like, I'm doing this. And they're like, you're next. And I'm like, oh, okay. I said, hey, I'm next. And he goes, how old are you? And I said, I'm 24, whatever. I was 23, 24. And he goes, too old. So I went out and wrestled, and I lost in overtime. But that was a really cool time. Not necessarily a conversation, but to get recognized by that guy and pull me across the room to drill with me, that was a lot of fun. I had to tell that story because that was one of the coolest
That is
things that
great.
ever experiences. As far as a conversation, I would say with my boys. Um, I feel like me recognizing that I can't be their head coach, that I need to kind of pull myself out of that and try to be a dad more. I mean, I learned with my oldest boy. I mean, he started older, a little older than all my other boys, but once he started wrestling, they all wanted to wrestle, right? They didn't necessarily compete, but telling them like, hey guys, like I shouldn't be your main coach. I want to be able to have both relationships and just be a supplement and guide you and help you along the way. But I don't want to necessarily be your head coach. And having that conversation with them and them understanding that uh, impacted my life and their life. I think we have a good relationship because of that. I'm not saying that you can't have a good relationship, coach, dad, uh, but I felt like it was very beneficial to my family doing that.
When you look at your career, what's a match that you learned the most from? Does one stand out for whatever reason? A match that you learned a ton from?
Oh, there's so many learning experiences and matches, right? A loss is a learning experience. That's what you learn from, right? I mean, one that just pops into my head right now. I was winning against Frere uh, in the U.S. Open semis with 7 seconds left, and I'm standing with my toe in the center, and he hits a rolling start. Ref blows a whistle. Jared Frere didn't shoot. He double legged me. He double legged me off of the whistle and won the match. So being ready before that whistle, and I knew that before, but I just I took a little, I relaxed a little bit, and I'm like, Frere isn't shooting. There's no way he's gonna take a shot. Well, sure enough, he double legs me and sits me on my butt and wins the match. I'm like, that did not just happen. I learned a lot that day. That was later in my career, but I always say that to everyone. I'm like ready on the whistle. Like I know it's like coaches say that over and over again, but it means a lot to me. There was a couple of times that I lost some big matches because I towed the line and wasn't ready.
If you could have any match back in your career, what would that match be?
uh, Probably Lawrence Olympic trial tournament finals in '04. I had I had beaten him handily in freestyle a couple times that year. I didn't lose him in folk style, and he just he put a good match together. And I was already preparing for Jamil Kelly, who I had beaten. I think I was the only American to beat him. I think I beat him the year prior because he was beating everyone that those last 2 years. Uh, and yeah, it would have to be that Jared Lawrence match.
That loss hurt the most as well, or is there another match that hurt more?
Uh, well, it had to have been like I know it's crazy to say, but my sophomore year when I lost at state, I remember that hurting a lot. And I learned a lot from that because I learned how to control my emotions and be able to shake stuff off, and move on and think about the next thing, not just dwell on that. So I would have to say my sophomore year was the most impactful, and I learned a lot from it. Um, Obviously, other matches hurt, not making Olympic teams, uh, not winning the U.S. Open, stuff like that. But you kind of put stuff in perspective. It's not everything, and I learned that.
You bring up Jared Lawrence. I thought it was super cool that at the NCAs this past March, they bring you and him up to talk about that 2003 match. Obviously, you guys are involved in PFL together. This last week, I saw a video with Jordan Burroughs and Zarbak Sidikov. I mean, I think that stuff is so. I just think it's so cool. I mean, even I love the relationships. I mean, when we get inside that circle, I want to absolutely take your soul. But when it's over with,
Yeah,
like, I want to be friends with you. I love seeing more of that. What are your feelings on that?
I think it's great. Uh, Back when I was competing, I didn't think like that at all. So as I got older, I kind of started seeing like the relationships you can have and like wrestling's wrestling. Like when you're younger, I feel like it's everything. But as you get older, especially me coaching and watching my boys go through it, obviously it's my life, right? It consumes me, but it's not everything. Family and friends and life is everything. Um, so being able to have those relationships, I wish I would have known that back then and been able to have those relationships, but it's something you learn as you get older. I think with the media and social media now, uh, you see those kind of things like you describing Burroughs and Sidikoff, right? Uh, and kids at the younger ages see that, like Kyler and Bo Bassett, they give each other props on their social media stuff, and uh, all those, like I just see my boys having these relationships with these guys that they compete against and for national titles and world teams, and they're going to be competing against each other for NCAA titles and stuff, and they're able to have those. I think it's really cool, and I love that. I don't know if necessarily the sport's heading that way. I just know in my community with our guys, it is, and I really enjoy it.
If you had to take a car ride, Eric, from out there in Arizona up to Bar Harbor, Maine, cross country, okay? It's you and three people, dead or alive, that you've never met.
Oh,
What three people are you picking?
yeesh, okay. Um, Never met. Man, that's a tough one, Shane. uh God, no one really is popping into my head. Does it necessarily need to be a wrestling figure?
Absolutely not. Anybody. You got your pick of the litter. Anybody.
Okay. Probably. Oh, yeah, but there's gonna be language barriers. Okay, so maybe how about I'm thinking about like the Aztec Indians. Like it'd be fun to like ride around with some of those guys back in the day that yeah, so I would say John F. Kennedy. I think that'd be cool. I was really intrigued with him when I was younger. I remember writing a couple reports on him. Uh, Jeez, I don't know right now. I can't really give you three other ones, but there's a lot that's going on in my head with those.
Let me ask
So
you
I'll just
this.
stop.
I like to ask this question too. Put you on the spot again here a little bit, but I believe. How would you finish that? What do you believe in the most?
Discipline. Finding something that you're passionate about and finding a way to do that the rest of your life. I think when you go to college, you pick these degrees and stuff, and when you're in a sport, you're not, especially when you're successful and you're supposed to win and all this stuff, that education piece necessarily won't be on that front burner. So especially for me, I mean, I went to school, got a small business sociology degree. It was an interdisciplinary degree. I just knew I wanted to be involved in wrestling and I wanted to figure out a way to do that. And I think it took a little bit of time before I got there, but now I'm doing what I set out to do. Being passionate uh about something in life and finding a way to get that, being disciplined and structured enough to find that avenue and get on it. That's what I believe in. I think that everyone should find that if they can, if it's possible. That's what I truly believe in.
What's something about you, Eric, that very few people know?
Uh, I don't know. Let's see. I'm not going to say some stuff because I get laughed at, but
Oh,
uh,
that's okay. I won't laugh at you.
uh, I like archery. I like hunting. I don't know if everyone really necessarily knows that. I don't get to spend as much time as I would like with it. But I did get drawn for elk 5 years ago, and I was able to kill a bull with my bow from like 10 yards away. And it was the last day, and I'm just the process of going through it and missing these chances here, and then just sticking to it and knowing, hey, I'm gonna go through this all the way to the end and see if I can do it. And sure enough, that last morning I got one. Being able to do that with my dad and my boys and my brother, um, it's kind of like wrestling. You got to control what you can control and navigate yourself to get a great shot. And it seems like everything had to be perfect for that moment. And that's kind of what winning a big title is. Like everything has to kind of fall in line, I feel like. And that I just that hunt made me kind of feel like winning a big title of some sort. So I really enjoy archery hunting. I just got to find more time to do it.
I wanted to ask you this earlier, Eric. At what point in your career did you start thinking you wanted to be great? Or that you could be great?
My first year of wrestling. Yeah, I started wrestling that first year, and I wanted to be the best. I know it was like this. I didn't even know about the rest of I wanted to beat everyone that was right in front of me. And then uh as I kind of start when I actually kind of sat back after that first year of wrestling, uh and looked at what the wrestling world was all about, at least the country, uh I knew I wanted to be that. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be that person in that newspaper. I wanted to be a national champion in college. I was already thinking about that when I was in junior high, my first year. My second year of wrestling, I took third in both styles at cadets. Um, I just had this drive. I wanted to be the best right off the bat.
Fantastic stuff. This has been a lot of fun, Eric. Just I've admired you from afar. I've never met you in person, but I've always been a big ASU fan, and you are one of the all-time greats. I mean, you are a hammer, and congratulations on everything you're doing at Valiant Prep and with PFL. And I mean, you're just one of those guys that continues to make a really big impact in the sport. So I really appreciate the time. It's been a fun conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. And real quick, it's P&L. It's the Premier
P&L.
National. Yeah.
I'm thinking of profit. I'm thinking of profit and loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for the correction there.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
Awesome.
sorry.
Thanks for doing that. Thanks again.
No problem.